Hi everyone, Stjepan here after more than 2 weeks, which I'm sorry about. First of all, let me say Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. If you're not celebrating Christmas, have a great time. I've played 2 tournaments in a row, starting December 7th, and I had at first planned to record my games daily. But after the first game, after the first round, I got so immersed into the tournament and had so much work to do with preparation and analysis and all of that I just, not that I couldn't manage, I could have recorded, but I felt that I needed my energy elsewhere, or that I needed to be invested in chess completely, so I decided not to record until the tournaments are over. And then when I came back, the holiday started, so I did a lot of cooking, hosting, and, well, holiday stuff. Now that it's all finally over, I'm going to be covering all the games. I had covered round 1 of Zagreb Open, of the first tournament I'd played on the day when it was played 2 weeks ago. I'd lost the game. Today I'm going to show you round 2. I'd just like to say that I think I've gained a ton of experience in the 2 tournaments. One of them was probably the best tournament I've ever played, and the other one was maybe the worst tournament I've ever played, which is weird, and I still have to deduce why that happened. My best guess now would be being tired, or being, I don't know, not being able to stay focused for a long time. So I've played in Zagreb, in my hometown, and in Zadar. And the tournament in Zadar started the day after Zagreb finished, so I played 18 games in a row, basically. Okay, I've been working on my new repertoire, as you may know, and in the 2 tournaments, I'm happy to say that I mostly played stuff I've never played before, and I've played a lot of new openings. Okay, in round 2 in Zagreb, after losing to international master Ozren Biti in round 1, I got paired against a lower rated opponent, which is not such an easy game to play when your opponent, and the girl I played, is a candidate master in Croatian rating, so she is much stronger than her FIDE rating. Her national is I think like mine, or maybe 50 points lower, so she's a formidable opponent for me. So I opened with pawn to d4, she played d5, c4, e6, we have the queen's gambit declined, and after knight c3, knight f6, I went for the exchange variation, c takes d5. I'd spent some time working on Carlsbad pawn structures and on ideas with the minority attack and with the isolated queen's pawn, I'm sorry. So I wanted to enter a Carlsbad, and I did, which is almost inevitable after the exchange variation of the queen's gambit declined. And we played normal moves. So here she played bishop f5. I know that the main move is queen f3, but I don't really like playing with my queen on f3, because then my knight has to go to e2. But then the queen on f3 makes it harder to play e4. Usually if the knight is on e2, I want to play f3, e4. So anyway, I played bishop d3, which is slightly uncommon, but still a good move. Bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, knight b to d7. Now here, knight to e2 and knight to f3 are, I think, equally popular. Different plans though. Knight on e2 supports e4 via f3, and the knight on f3 supports the e5 square, which is, in my opinion, more useful after you manage to play e4, which is still possible after something like rook f2 e1. So I played knight f3. Bishop d6 by my opponent, which is the best move, castles, castles. And here I made my first mistake. And I would say, well, I made 2 mistakes this game. Yeah, this is something I wanted to share with you. So I haven't been looking at these games with an engine, except for 2 of them out of 18, which I looked at while I was having lessons. And I did a lot of analysis on each game, and I think I managed to point out my own mistakes without missing too many. And in this game, I think I'd only made 2. So please, whenever I record a game in the series, if you find a mistake, please point it out. If I didn't, I would appreciate that. And I'm going to stay, I'm not going to be using the engine, as I said in the previous video. I want to improve. I want to be able to improve without having to use the engine to point out my mistakes. So anyway, my first mistake is a3. Why is this a mistake? Well, it's starting a minority attack, but it's quite too slow. A better way to start a minority attack would have been rook to b1. And when she plays rook to e8, b4 can now be played, and after a6, I would be able to play the move a4. And after something like b5, a5, I don't have that much. I didn't manage to play my minority attack successfully, but at least I have managed to weaken the c6 point in her position, and after something like knight e2, knight g3 or knight e2, knight f4, I can double up my rooks on the c file and try to play for the c6 weakness. On the other hand, it's also quite hard for her to use the c4 square, which is often a weakness after an attempted minority attack. So in this position, after b4, a6, a4, b5, if I'd taken, for example, here takes, she would have had the option to go knight b6, knight a4, or knight b6, knight c4, with a much better position. So after castles, I think rook b1 was a much better attempt. Also, a better move was definitely e4. In these positions, playing for an isolated queen's pawn for white is one of the main strategies here. You want to blow open the center, ruin the Carlsbad from the center of the board, so undermine the structure. Here, of course, she has to take. If she allows me to take, well, she loses a pawn in this case, but also it would isolate her pawn for no reason. And when she takes, and I take with the knight, something like bishop e7, rook f2 e1, is a lot of activity for me. I'm going to get my knight into e5, my other knight can often jump into d6 or g5, and I'm basically starting an attack. This pawn, this isolated queen's pawn on d4 can also often be dissolved or well, simply traded off by pushing d5. So it's not like in some other variations when this becomes hard. So anyway, I played a3, which I think is just a bad move. It's not the same thing, because now after rook to e8, when I start with b4, she plays b5. And I don't have the option, my pawn on b4 is not defended, so I don't have the option of playing a4. Well, from my analysis, the best option would have been a4 anyway, because if she takes, I can take here. And, or even better, after bishop takes b4, I can go something like knight a2, force the bishop back to e7, and then I can take. So this would probably be the best option. I did not consider it during the game. After b5, I played rook f2 e1. And so yeah, b4 was my second mistake. After rook to e8, I think I should have just continued with rook to e1 and played e4 eventually. I think I should have abandoned my idea of a minority attack because it simply does not work. She can play b5. So b4 was sort of trying to justify my previous move, even though I knew my previous move was suboptimal. After b5, rook f2 e1 is correct. I don't think there's any better moves. And I'm sure black is better here. How much, I don't know. The point is, she now has the option to enter the c4 square, which means that my position is going to be very tough to play. And if she plays precisely here, she would have an advantage which is almost insurmountable for me. When I played rook f2 e1, I'd expected her move. Luckily for me, she did not play it. The correct move is definitely a5. And I don't have a way to react to this. So she is undermining my structure. She is about to have a better pawn structure with either me having an isolated b4 pawn or she's going to have a passed pawn. So the only way to save the pawn for me would be rook to b1, and after takes, this is horrible. A weakness on c4, weakness on a4, the knight is ready to use them immediately. My rook is stuck to the defense of a pawn, which is just horrible. I don't have anything in the center, I'm not playing e4. This is a bad position with no counterplay. I wouldn't say white is losing, I would say black is slightly better, which is bad on move 13 for white. Luckily for me, she played a very bad move, which gave me enough time to consolidate and to get counterplay. She played the move queen b8. I'm sorry. Where are we? b5, rook f2 e1. She played the move queen b8, which is just a waste of time. To be honest, I'm not even sure what she wanted to achieve with the move. But yeah, this now gives me the option to play e4, gives me enough time. And once I've broken through the center, d5 is happening, c6 is weak, the knight isn't coming to b6 yet, and this is now just over. She has to take, because otherwise I'm going to play e5. It's not over in the sense that I'm winning, it's over in the sense that she doesn't have time to play a5 and go for threats of her own anymore. So d takes e4 has to be played. Knight takes e4, knight takes e4, rook takes e4, rook takes e4, queen takes e4. She trades everything off, and now you can see that, well, the rook is stuck in the center, undeveloped. The queen has to move to defend the pawn. After queen c7, I just play rook c1. She plays rook c8, and now I'd been calculating d5 for a long time, trying to dissolve my pawn, but I ended up not playing it because after d5, she of course has to play c5. And I would go bc5, knight c5, queen g4. And in this position, I didn't know if I'm that much better. I have a passed pawn on d5, that's true. But my a3 pawn is weak, my rook is sort of loose, and I'm hanging mate. On the other hand, her king is quite weak, my queen is good. I don't know. I couldn't see if this position was that much better for me. So I had a problem. I knew that she wanted to play knight b6, that's one thing, and knight c4, so my a3 pawn is going to be weak. I also knew that if I played d5, she will play c5. So the piece I wanted to get rid of was this bishop, and I couldn't see what my bishop on g5 was doing. So after about maybe 20 minutes, this was my definitely my longest think of the game, I found the move bishop e7. And I was really happy about this move from a strategic point of view, because it's really hard to preserve the bishops. Now, what I was calculating as her best move was bishop f4. And after bishop f4, I was going to play queen c2. I was expecting knight b6. And then I was going to play g3. And I was expecting knight d5. And after knight d5, I was going for this trade. And I was quite happy with this position. I have knight e5, she has the d5 square, but eventually her c6 pawn is going to be a big weakness. After bishop e7, another option was just knight b6, and after, knight b6 is what she played, I'm sorry. I just want to point out that after bishop e7, rook to e8 doesn't work, because I just take the bishop and win a piece. She takes my queen, I take her queen, I'm a bishop up. Okay, so after bishop e7, she played knight b6, which is the second move I expected after bishop f4. And now I just trade, bishop takes d6, queen takes d6. And you may wonder, what did I achieve with this trade? Well, I have managed to weaken the e5 square, which is very important. I want my knight in e5. That puts pressure on f7, puts pressure on c6. And it also makes it easier for me to undermine the b5 square, or better put, the control of c4, because my dark square pawns on b4 and a3 are not that weak anymore. Okay, so when the bishop is on d6, this is just dropping. The queen is going to have to move. I played knight e5 immediately, of course threatening to win the pawn immediately. She played queen d5, and now I had my second longest thing. I decided that, firstly, if I take the queen, it should be equal. I'm not sure that I have any sort of advantage, because she takes with the pawn. Of course, if she takes with the knight, she loses the pawn. But she takes with the pawn, and then I take... okay, I'll show you. So if I exchange the rooks, I don't have anything. If I don't exchange the rooks, I have to move away. Her rook is coming to c2, and that's just no good. So I found a way to preserve the status quo. I played f3, which I was really happy about. Of course, she continued with knight c4, which I'd expected. I have to take knight c4, bc4. And now what she was banking on was the fact that I have to trade the queens off eventually. And here I had my third longest thing. And this move I'm really happy about as well. I played king to f2. The reason why I played king f2 is that my king is now stopping the c-pawn. The c-pawn is not queening. Even if it's protected by the d5 pawn, there are no issues. And eventually my rook is going to get to e7, harass her back row and the 7th rank, and I'm going to be able to win. So basically king f2 prevents d5 c4 formation from advancing to queening, even if the rook is behind the pawn on the c-file. And you're about to see this now. So she played rook d8, I played rook to e1. She played h6 because I was threatening mate, and now I took queen takes d5, c takes d5, which may seem weird, but it's completely justified. I just play rook e7, and she, I believe, is now just lost. Let me just show you what happens after rook c8. If she tries rook c8 and my king is on g1, then I'm in trouble. I have to go back with my rook, but I just go king e2. And if this happens, I'm just winning. Okay, and I'm stopping the pawn. So after rook e7, I saw that she was surprised by this move and didn't expect it, but that's why I played king f2. a6 has to save the pawn, king e2, rook d6, king d2, g6, a4, and now I'm starting to advance my pawns. I'm going to have a passed pawn on the b file, and that should be enough. My king is controlling these two, and my rook is also quite menacing, looking at d5 and a6. After a4, she played king f8. Rook c7, I want to keep cutting the king off. King e8, h4, stopping counterplay on the king side as well. g5, h5. Rook b6, king c3, rook e6. I'm not afraid of the check on e3 if my king can go up. If my king has to go back, then I'm in trouble, so I go b5, ab5, ab5. If she goes rook e3 check, just king b4. My rook is perfectly placed on the c file. Rook e7, and now I think I can take. No, I can't take. What was I calculating? Okay, in the end I played rook c8 check. There was another move which I can't remember now. Okay, anyway, I thought this was enough. Rook c8 check, she has to go king d7, and now I go rook to c5, and I'm going to win a pawn. There's no way for her to save both d5 and h6. If she goes king d6, I just check and win the a6 pawn, have a h6 pawn, have a passed pawn on h5. She played rook e3 check, king b4, rook b3 check, king a5, rook a3 check, king b6, and now it's over. The last piece of calculation I had to do was before I went for b5, and that's, can I take on h6 and be back in time to save my position by stopping the pawn? And the answer is yes. So king d6, I check, king to d7, I take, and now rook takes h6, she goes rook d3, and of course if I don't save my pawn I'm worse, but I have enough time to both stop the c pawn, defend my d pawn, win the d5 pawn, and after c3, rook c6, c2, king takes d5, she's just lost. And I'm stopping everything, not giving her any pawns. There was one funny blunder here. In this position, if I try to queen my pawn immediately with b6, then she can just take. And now this is horrible. I'm losing the game. This is now lost for me. Okay, but I didn't blunder. So g4, king f2, b6 now works because the rook is not attacking d4. And in this position, she resigns. She has to trade the rooks off, or I'm going to queen my b pawn, or I'm queening my b pawn anyway. Okay, so that was round 2. I'm not happy that I messed up the minority attack, but I'm happy that I won a d4 game, which is new for me. I'm an e4 player, have been an e4 player since I started playing chess. And playing d4 is kind of stressful because I never know what's going to happen. I'm not prepared for all the options, and happy I managed to win. Okay, this was the lowest opponent I played in the tournament, and the only opponent in the tournament that was lower rated than me. So the other 7 games are all going to be players above 2000, actually above 2100 to be more precise. Okay, so I will continue tomorrow with round 3, probably rounds 3, 4, and 5 actually, because I will be playing a tournament in 4 days, and I want to cover the games from Zadar and Zagreb before that starts. Let me know what you think. Please point out any mistakes I've made if I didn't point them out myself. And again, sorry for not being active for so long. I was playing the tournaments, and then I had the holiday season at home with my family and friends, and yeah, sorry about that. See you tomorrow. Bye. Stay tuned for more chess.